You're standing in front of 3 necklaces, and something inside you is drawn to one of them instantly. Maybe it's the delicate chain that catches your eye, or perhaps the bold pendant that seems to call out to you, or even the simple, understated piece that feels safe and familiar. You reach out, your fingers hovering over one in particular, and in that split second of choice, something profound is happening beneath the surface of your awareness. Freud would tell you that this isn't just about aesthetics or personal style. This is your unconscious mind speaking, revealing truths about yourself that you've been hiding, even from your own conscious awareness. That attraction you feel, that inexplicable pull toward one piece over the others, it's not random. It's a window into the deepest parts of who you are, the parts you don't talk about, the parts you might not even know exist. And here's what makes this so powerful. You didn't choose that necklace. Your unconscious chose it for you, and it chose it for a reason that goes far deeper than you imagine. Think about the last time you made what seemed like a simple choice. What to wear, what to eat, which path to take on your walk. These feel like conscious decisions, deliberate and controlled. But Freud discovered something that changed our understanding of the human mind forever. He found that beneath our conscious awareness, beneath the thoughts we can articulate and the decisions we think we're making rationally, there exists an entire world of hidden motivations, repressed desires and unacknowledged fears. This is the unconscious, and it's not silent. It's constantly speaking, constantly expressing itself, constantly trying to tell us something vitally important about who we are. And it speaks through symbols, through choices that seem insignificant, through preferences we can't quite explain. When you choose a necklace, when you're drawn to one object over another, your unconscious is using that choice as a language, as a way to communicate truths that your conscious mind has been too afraid to acknowledge. Let's talk about what happens in that moment of choice. You look at the 3 necklaces and your conscious mind might be thinking about things like whether it matches your wardrobe, whether it's too expensive, whether other people will like it. But underneath all of that surface chatter, your unconscious is conducting a much more profound evaluation. It's scanning these objects for symbolic meaning, for connections to your deepest self, for representations of needs and desires that you've pushed out of awareness. And when you feel that pull toward one particular piece, when something inside you just knows that's the one, what you're experiencing is the unconscious breaking through, insisting on being heard, using this seemingly trivial choice to reveal something essential about your inner world. Now, let's examine what each of these necklaces might represent. And here's where Freud's insights become absolutely fascinating. Imagine the first necklace is delicate, with a thin chain and a small, intricate pendant. If you're drawn to this one, your unconscious might be revealing a deep need for subtlety, for protection through invisibility. Freud would recognize this as a potential defense mechanism, a way of moving through the world without drawing too much attention, without making yourself vulnerable to judgment or rejection. This choice might speak to a part of you that learned early on that it's safer to be small, to take up less space, to avoid being seen too clearly. Perhaps in your childhood, being noticed meant being criticized, or perhaps you internalized the belief that your needs and desires should be minimized, that you don't deserve to be bold or prominent. The delicate necklace becomes a symbol of this internalized belief, a way your unconscious is showing you how you've learned to protect yourself by diminishing your presence in the world. But here's what's crucial to understand. This isn't a conscious decision you made to be small. It's a pattern that formed in your unconscious, probably in response to early experiences that taught you this was the safest way to be. And now, years later, when you choose this delicate necklace, you're not thinking about any of that. You just like it. It feels right. But what feels right is actually what feels familiar, what matches the internal template your unconscious has constructed for how you should present yourself to the world. Freud called this repetition compulsion, the unconscious drive to recreate familiar patterns even when they no longer serve us, even when they keep us trapped in ways of being that limit our full expression. The delicate necklace isn't just jewelry. It's a manifestation of an unconscious belief about your place in the world, about how much space you're allowed to take up, about whether you're worthy of being truly seen. Now consider the second necklace, the bold one with the large, eye-catching pendant that demands attention. If this is the piece that draws you, your unconscious is speaking a completely different language. This choice reveals a part of you that wants to be seen, that needs to be recognized, that is tired of being overlooked or underestimated. Freud understood that humans have a fundamental need for recognition, for what he called narcissistic supply, the validation and attention from others that confirms our existence and worth. If you're drawn to the bold necklace, your unconscious might be expressing a hunger for this validation, a desire to announce your presence in the world, to be impossible to ignore. But here's where it gets deeper. This need for attention, this drive to be seen, it often comes from a place of early deprivation. Perhaps you grew up feeling invisible in your family. Perhaps your achievements were never celebrated. Perhaps you learned that the only way to get the love and attention you needed was to be exceptional, to be outstanding, to be impossible to overlook. The bold necklace becomes a symbol of this unconscious strategy. It says, look at me, see me, acknowledge me, recognize that I exist and that I matter. But underneath that surface need for attention, there's often a deeper vulnerability, a fear that without the bold display, without the dramatic presentation, you would disappear completely, that your essential self isn't enough to warrant notice. Freud would recognize this as a compensation, an unconscious attempt to fill an inner void with external validation. The person drawn to the bold necklace isn't necessarily vain or attention-seeking in the shallow sense. They're often someone whose unconscious is desperately trying to heal an old wound of invisibility, trying to finally get the recognition that was denied to them when they needed it most. And the tragic irony is that no amount of bold jewelry, no amount of external attention can ever truly fill that inner emptiness. The wound has to be acknowledged and healed from within, not adorned and displayed from without. If you've been following along and recognizing yourself in these descriptions, if you're feeling that uncomfortable sensation of being truly seen, maybe for the first time, I want you to know something important. This journey of self-discovery, this willingness to look at the unconscious patterns that shape your choices and your life, this is incredibly brave. And you're not alone in this. This channel exists to walk with you through these deep territories of self-understanding, to explore together the hidden dynamics of the psyche through the profound lens of Freudian psychoanalysis. Every week, I create videos that dive into these unconscious patterns, these hidden motivations, these secret truths that shape who we are and how we move through the world. If this resonates with you, if you're ready to continue this journey of truly knowing yourself, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because transformation doesn't happen in one moment of insight. It happens through sustained attention to the unconscious, through a commitment to seeing yourself clearly, even when it's uncomfortable. And I promise you, each video will offer you another piece of the puzzle, another key to unlocking the mysteries of your own mind. You don't have to do this alone. Join this community of people who are brave enough to look inward, honest enough to acknowledge what they find there, and committed enough to do the work of real transformation. Subscribe now, and let's continue this journey together. Now let's look at the third necklace, the simple, understated piece that doesn't draw attention, but has a quiet, classic elegance. If this is your choice, your unconscious is revealing yet another dimension of your inner world. This preference often speaks to a deep need for authenticity, for stripping away pretense, for being valued for substance rather than appearance. Freud would recognize in this choice a potential reaction formation, a defense mechanism where the unconscious creates a strong preference for one thing as a way of defending against the opposite desire. The person drawn to the simple necklace might be unconsciously defending against a fear of being seen as shallow, as superficial, as valuing appearance over essence. Perhaps in your history, you witnessed the emptiness of people who prioritized surface over depth. Perhaps you developed contempt for vanity or ostentation. Perhaps you internalized the belief that, to be a good person, a worthy person, you must reject anything that seems like showing off or drawing attention to your physical appearance. But here's what Freud would want you to examine more closely. Sometimes our most conscious values, the things we pride ourselves on, are actually unconscious. defenses against parts of ourselves we've deemed unacceptable. If you choose the simple necklace and feel a sense of moral superiority about that choice, if you judge the people who choose the bold piece as shallow or insecure, that judgment itself is revealing something important. It suggests that somewhere in your unconscious, there might be a repressed desire for attention, for adornment, for beauty, for being seen as attractive and desirable, but this desire has been pushed out of awareness because it conflicts with your ego ideal, with your image of who you should be. So the unconscious creates a reaction formation, transforming the unacceptable desire into its opposite, making you not just uninterested in bold displays, but actively opposed to them, creating a sense of pride in your simplicity that defensively protects you from having to acknowledge the part of you that actually wants to be seen and admired. And here's the profound truth that Freud discovered about all these unconscious patterns. They're not inherently bad or wrong. They're adaptations, strategies your psyche developed to protect you, to help you navigate a world that felt threatening or painful in some way. The person who chooses the delicate necklace learned that being small was safe. The person who chooses the bold necklace learned that being noticed was necessary for survival. The person who chooses the simple necklace learned that rejecting vanity was virtuous. These weren't conscious decisions. They were unconscious conclusions drawn from early experiences, patterns that formed before you had the cognitive capacity to question them, before you could choose differently. And now, years later, these patterns are still operating, still influencing your choices, still shaping how you present yourself to the world. But here's the transformative part. Once you become aware of these unconscious dynamics, once you can see the hidden motivations behind your choices, you gain the power to choose differently. You're no longer trapped in automatic patterns. You can ask yourself, is this choice truly serving me? Or is it serving an outdated protection strategy that I no longer need? Let me share something with you that might shift how you see all of this. Every single one of these necklace choices contains both truth and defense, both authentic self-expression and unconscious protection. The delicate necklace might genuinely reflect someone who appreciates subtlety and refinement, while also serving as a defense against vulnerability. The bold necklace might authentically express someone's vibrant personality and confidence, while also defending against a fear of invisibility. The simple necklace might truly represent someone's values of authenticity and substance, while also defending against a repressed desire for beauty and attention. Freud teaches us that the psyche is never simple, never one-dimensional. We're always operating on multiple levels, simultaneously, with conscious intentions and unconscious motivations weaving together in complex patterns. And this is what makes self-knowledge so challenging and so essential. We can't just take our choices at face value. We have to look deeper, to ask what else might be operating beneath the surface, to be willing to discover aspects of ourselves that we've kept hidden even from our own awareness. Now I want to pause here and ask you something directly. As you've been reading about these three necklaces, which one did you find yourself drawn to? And more importantly, what did you feel when you read the analysis of that choice? Did something inside you resist, saying, no, that's not why I like it? Or did you feel that uncomfortable recognition, that sense of being seen in a way that's both revelatory and slightly threatening? I want you to go down to the comments right now and share with me. You can simply write, I chose the delicate one and it's true, or I chose the bold one and this resonates, or I chose the simple one and I'm reflecting on this. That's all you need to say. Because here's what happens when you share. Someone else watching this video, feeling the exact same way, questioning the same patterns in their own life, is going to read your comment and realize they're not alone. Your willingness to acknowledge these patterns, even just by leaving a simple comment, creates a space of validation for someone else who needs it. This isn't just about you expressing yourself. It's about building a community of people who are brave enough to look at their unconscious patterns honestly, who are willing to see themselves clearly. So go ahead, scroll down and write which necklace you chose. Your comment might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. What Freud helps us understand is that these symbolic choices, these seemingly trivial preferences, are actually portals into the unconscious. They're opportunities to see what's been hidden, to recognize patterns that have been operating outside of awareness, to bring into consciousness dynamics that have been shaping our lives from the shadows. And this matters because, as long as these patterns remain unconscious, we're controlled by them. We keep making the same choices, attracting the same types of relationships, finding ourselves in the same frustrating situations, wondering why our life keeps unfolding in predictable and painful ways. But when we bring these unconscious patterns into awareness, when we can see them clearly and understand where they came from, we create the possibility of change. Not superficial change, not just deciding to choose a different necklace next time, but deep structural change in how we see ourselves, how we relate to others, how we move through the world. Let's go even deeper into what this necklace choice reveals about your relationship with your own desire. Freud discovered that humans have an incredibly complex relationship with their own wants and needs. We're not simple creatures who just want things and go after them. We're complicated beings who want things, then feel guilty about wanting them, then create defenses against that guilt, then develop symptoms that express the original desire in disguised form. It's a labyrinth of psychological complexity, and every choice we make, including which necklace we're drawn to, reflects this complexity. If you chose the delicate necklace, ask yourself this question. What would happen if you allowed yourself to be more visible, more prominent, more bold? What fear arises when you imagine wearing something that really draws attention? Often what you'll find is a deep fear of judgment, of being seen and found wanting, of being exposed as not good enough. The delicate necklace protects you from this feared judgment by keeping you somewhat hidden, but it also keeps you from being fully seen, fully known, fully celebrated for who you actually are. It's a trade-off your unconscious made long ago, choosing safety over visibility, protection over authentic expression. If you chose the bold necklace, ask yourself this question. What would happen if you stopped trying to be noticed? What would happen if you just existed quietly, without the performance, without the display? What fear arises when you imagine being ordinary, unremarkable, just one person among many? Often, what you'll find is a terror of disappearing, of being forgotten, of returning to that early experience of being overlooked and unvalued. The bold necklace protects you from this feared invisibility by ensuring you're always noticed. But it also keeps you trapped in a perpetual performance, always on display, never able to rest, never able to discover if people would value you. Without the spectacular presentation, it's exhausting and it prevents the very deep connection you're actually seeking, because people are relating to the performance, not to the vulnerable person underneath. If you chose the simple necklace, ask yourself this question. What would happen if you allowed yourself to care about beauty, to want to be attractive, to desire to be seen as physically appealing? What fear arises when you imagine wearing something gorgeous, something that makes you feel beautiful, something that draws admiring glances? Often, what you'll find is a fear of being shallow, of being judged as vain or superficial, of losing your identity as someone of substance and depth. The simple necklace protects you from this feared judgment by keeping you above such base concerns. But it also keeps you disconnected from a legitimate part of being human, the part that wants to feel beautiful, that wants to be desired, that wants to experience the pleasure of adornment and aesthetic expression. It's a rejection of the body, a subtle contempt for the physical realm, and it prevents you from integrating all aspects of your humanity into a coherent whole. Here's what Freud would tell you if he were sitting with you right now. The goal isn't to choose the right necklace. The goal is to understand why you choose what you choose, to see the unconscious patterns operating beneath your preferences, and then to expand your capacity to choose freely rather than compulsively. True psychological freedom doesn't mean forcing yourself to choose differently. It means becoming aware enough of your unconscious motivations that you can choose from a place of genuine self-knowledge rather than from automatic pattern. Maybe after doing this work, after seeing clearly what the delicate necklace represents for you, you still choose it, but now you choose it consciously, aware of both its beauty and its defensive function, and you make a commitment to find other ways to allow yourself to be seen. Maybe you still choose the bold necklace, but now you choose it with awareness of what it's protecting against, and you make a commitment to also develop the capacity to be present and valued without the performance. Maybe you still choose the simple necklace, but now you choose it with awareness of what desire it might be defending against, and you make a commitment to integrate beauty and aesthetic pleasure into your life in conscious ways. This is the transformative power of psychoanalytic self-knowledge. You don't have to change who you are, you just have to see who you are clearly, without the distortions of unconscious defense, without the limitations of unexamined patterns. And when you see clearly, when you understand deeply, change happens naturally, not because you're forcing it, but because consciousness itself is transformative. When you bring light to what's been hidden in shadow, when you see the patterns that have been controlling you from behind the scenes, those patterns lose their unconscious power over you. You become the author of your own life, rather than a character acting out a script written long ago by circumstances and experiences you didn't choose. Think about this for a moment. That necklace you were drawn to, that instant preference you felt, it's been shaped by everything you've experienced, every message you received about who you should be, every wound you suffered, every protection you developed, every belief you internalized about your worth and your place in the world. It's all there, encoded in that simple preference for one piece of jewelry over another. And this is true for every choice you make, every preference you have, every person you're attracted to, every career path that appeals to you, every place you want to live, every way you spend your time. Your unconscious is always speaking, always expressing, always trying to tell you something essential about who you are and what you need. But most people never listen. They go through life making choices that feel random or purely practical, never realizing that every choice is meaningful, that every preference is revealing, that the unconscious is constantly offering clues to your deepest self if you're willing to pay attention. This is why Freud's work remains so revolutionary, so essential, so transformative, even more than a century after he first began exploring the unconscious mind. He gave us a method for listening to these unconscious communications, for decoding the symbolic language of the psyche, for understanding the hidden dynamics that shape our lives. And when you learn this method, when you develop this capacity to see beneath the surface of things, everything changes. You're no longer a mystery to yourself. You're no longer confused about why you keep ending up in the same situations, why you can't seem to change certain patterns, why you feel stuck or limited or trapped in ways you can't explain. You begin to see the architecture of your own psyche, the structures of belief and defense and desire that create your experience of reality. And seeing them, you can begin to consciously reshape them, to build a life that's genuinely yours, rather than one that's been determined by unconscious forces you didn't even know existed. So that choice you made about the necklace, it's not trivial. It's not meaningless. It's a doorway into self-knowledge, an opportunity to see something true about yourself that you've been hiding even from your own awareness. And the question now is, what will you do with this insight? Will you dismiss it, returning to the comfortable unconsciousness of automatic living? Or will you take this seriously, using it as the beginning of a deeper investigation into your own psyche, a commitment to truly knowing yourself at the deepest levels? Because I can tell you from working with these concepts for years, from studying Freud and applying his insights to real human lives, that this work of bringing the unconscious into consciousness is the most important work you can do. It's the work that transforms everything, that heals old wounds, that liberates you from patterns that have kept you trapped, that allows you to finally become the person you have the potential to be, rather than the limited version you've been conditioned to accept. You're standing in front of 3 necklaces, and you've made your choice. But now you understand that this choice is just the beginning, just the first thread you've pulled that will unravel a much larger tapestry of unconscious meaning. Keep pulling that thread. Keep asking questions. Keep looking beneath the surface of your preferences and choices and patterns, because underneath all of it is the truth of who you are, waiting to be discovered, waiting to be known, waiting to be integrated into conscious awareness so you can finally live with full knowledge of yourself. That's the promise of psychoanalysis. That's the gift Freud gave to humanity. And that's the journey I invite you to continue, not just today with this video, but as an ongoing practice of self-discovery and transformation. The necklace revealed the secret you've been hiding even from yourself. Now the question is, what will you do with that revelation? How will you use this knowledge to live more authentically, more freely, more fully, as the complex, multidimensional human being you actually are? The answer to that question will determine the trajectory of your entire life from this moment forward.